Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors in Winston, Chester. Glad you're here this morning. Got a big show lined up. But first, our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin and Highway 77. High today is getting all the way up to 83. Low, get this, low tonight, 63. Might as well bring out the firewood and build your fire tonight. Water temperature 87.8. This is going back up. But it's fascinating to see this air temperature getting down like this. So it's been nice. River readings, Apalachicola, Blountstown. They're brought to us by Sandhill Seafood up on Highway 77. Like I said yesterday, good folks, good food. Apalachicola, Blountstown, and even 2 foot. And it's sort of staying steady for the weekend. Choctaw at Caryville, right at 9 foot and a slow drop to it. So both rivers should be in pretty good shape. You find some of the pecan worms that are floating around. Get close to them, shake the tree off, and fish up under them, and just go open up the ice chest. Don't even close the ice chest. Keep throwing the fish in it. That's how it should be. Okay, the tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery. We're looking at a high tide, 11:22 this morning, so it's coming in, and then a low tide at 6:54. Today's the 7th, and a little bit of a tide today. Not too bad, right there middle of the day, like I said, at a high tide, so might be a good time to fish. And Saturday not looking good on tides, but next week, good strong tides. The marine forecast, as you know, you've been watching the weather, it's swinging around, be north, northeast all day. It's going to get up about 11 or 12. All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. We're going to do something a little different today. Instead of showing you a lot of pictures on this segment, I'm just going to tell you a story out of my book. It has to do with the hurricane and all of 1929. I want to give you a background because we had some first-hand information on it when I was doing the book, and I became just fascinated with this story. I became fascinated with this man and his family. And the guy's name was C.J. Bryan, and he came down here in 1908 from North Carolina. And he came down here because a buddy of his told him you could actually go down there to Panama City and you could catch 2 red snappers on one line. And he was fascinated with that, and that's really why he came down here. And he opened up the very first fish house in Panama City. And what he was able to do, he had one boat he got from Gloucester, Massachusetts, and then he started getting them built down here. And he had some good captains, he had some legendary captains, and they'd bring him in a fish house, and he was the first person ever to use the Western Union telegram, to send a telegram from Panama City, first person ever, and he was able to connect with those towns like Atlanta and all, and to send the fresh fish up there. He was the first guy to do it, and he made a fortune doing it. So I was fascinated, found a lot of information on him, and a section in there in the book if you want to read about C.J. Bryan. Well, what happened, I got to interview his daughter before she passed away. And Gail and I got up on a Saturday morning. We talked to her on the phone. At this time, she was right at 90, and we got up at 3 o'clock on Saturday morning because I was teaching school, drove to Jacksonville, Florida, where she was staying, and spent the whole morning with her, took her out to lunch, and just had a wonderful visit with her. And we got her to tell the story of the hurricane and all because she was a little girl in 1929 when this happened. And I actually put it, so I'm going to read you this story. I don't think I've ever read you a complete story out of the book, because it's so fascinating. So get this in mind, C.J. Bryan, he was, again, Frank Pericola, the old newspaper editor of the News Herald, he said he's the most fascinating man he'd ever met. And so C.J. Bryan, and he made a fortune and then he lost a fortune in 1929 like a lot of people. I want to read you the story because once a year he would go out on his boat with his crew and just to be a part of the fishing trip. He'd like going out there with them. And this particular year he picked the wrong time to go. But it was September of 1929. And so he loaded up with them, and they went out. So I'm going to read you the story. This is coming from Winifred, his daughter, telling the story. And their house was on 1010 Beach Drive. When he made a fortune, he built this really nice house, which is still standing on Beach Drive. So this story, as she's telling it, tells about her in that house there, looking out that window. And it's coming from a little girl. And I just, I've read this a lot of times, and I just want to share it with you because of the storms we're having. But this is a first-hand account of what happened back then in a storm, and I still get excited about it. So I'm just going to read it to you. Got a couple of pictures that Jeff's going to put up as we read through it, okay? So just sit back, enjoy a cup of coffee, and enjoy this story. My students love this story. It was September 1929. I was a small child, 10 years old. We lived in a small town of Panama City, Florida, which was situated in lovely St. Andrews Bay. The water was so clear and the bottom was so white with sand that it was fun for us kids to put our heads underwater and just look at the crabs scurrying along. My father went out once a year on one of his fishing schooners, and he planned to go out today on the Galatea, was the name of the boat. There had been a hurricane watch in Florida, but we had those all the time. Most of all, didn't hit us, and we pretty well just wasn't afraid of them. So we disregarded, and Daddy went out anyway. So okay. So he goes on to say it went out in the Gulf of Mexico, and the hurricane came, and it hit the Gulf, it hit Panama City, hit Apalachicola, Panama City, and all along. We lived right on the bayfront. Okay, she's telling me the story. I got the story recorded. We lived right on the bayfront, and from our windows we could see the wind bending the trees, rain blowing in sheets. The beach was covered in water, and some of it even came up into our yard. We looked for my father's boat to return, but the fishing schooner did not come back through the. She could look out and see the old pass, so it was very important for her to look out. She was looking out, looking for Daddy's boat to come back in. The hurricane lasted for days, and we had no word of the boat. As soon as the storm died down, the Navy planes, it was the early years of aviation, the Navy planes from Pensacola came down and looked for Dad, and they couldn't find him. They found no boat, no wreckage, nothing. Days went by. Some of the fishermen lived in Apalachicola, and memorial services were held for them down there in Apalachicola. However, for a while longer, my family kept hoping. My sister Betty, now I love this when she told me the story. My sister Betty was always dramatic. She played the piano in the parlor, and she played the song all day long, "Nearer My God to Thee," and over and over and over. She said, I just so tired of hearing that song from her. And day after day, I stood by the window overlooking the bay, and I watched it pass. I waited for my father's boat to appear. The grown-ups would try to coax me away. They would pat me on the shoulder, telling me, "Your father is not coming home. He is lost at sea. You have to give up. Come away from that window." But I stood my ground, and I said, "Jesus will not take my father away from me. My dad is coming home. I want to be the first one to see his boat. Just you wait and see." And can you picture a little girl saying that? It could happen any minute. I left the window only for meals, except when darkness fell and I went to bed. Several times we heard that they had turned up here one time, there one time, but there had been so many false sightings that my mother finally gave up and planned memorial services for Daddy. I still didn't give up. But then one day, my father's boat drifted through the Gulf, through the Apalachicola Pass. Everyone was alive and well. There was a lot of laughing, hugging, kissing, and crying. These things, 3 things, and when Dad got home, 3 things my father wanted. He wanted some food, he wanted a hot bath, and he wanted to shave. After that, and this was really heartwarming, after that big meal, she said, my father gathered us around and said, he had 4 kids. He said, "I want to tell you all about what happened during that storm. We sailed out into the Gulf, and when we knew the hurricane was blowing up, basically, and he said, we started coming back in, but they had to take the sails down because it's so strong. Took the sails down, turned the engine on, the old Oldsmobile engine, it cut off on them, and the storm started blowing them out to sea." Okay? Now here's a picture of the Galatea. It's not a very good picture. That's the only one I could find. Amazing to took a picture in 1929. This was a boat. The mast, the main mast, is actually snapped off at the hull. It was actually snapped off, so they just had the bare boat coming in. Okay, so here's what her dad said. Basically, the engine shut down. We got so close to the pass, but we soon lost sight of land, began drifting further and further. 1 minute, I love this now, 1 minute we would be on top of a gigantic wave, and the next we'd be down in the trough of the waves, like a deep valley with tall mountains above us. If it had not been for the danger, it was beautiful. I wish you kids could have been there. It was just beautiful. When a person is in trouble, it helps to see the beauty of God's world. You remember that God is always with you. Believe me, we did a lot of praying, and after the storm, we prayed during and after the storm. We prayed together many times. I talked to God constantly throughout my voyage. We never gave up hope that we would survive. We rationed the food out, trying to make it last. Then we were down to our last ham, and we spotted the shoreline, and we decided if that shoreline was inhabited, we would go ahead and eat the ham. If not, we would save it. And then it went on in where they drifted right on in, and people saw them boats and brought them in. But that story, it tells you about the veracity and yet the beauty of that, and that's a first-hand account. And she was still in her 90s, still almost get tears in her eyes telling that story. She had such a dramatic, it had such a dramatic effect in her life. But later on, they actually in if you can still see that house is still standing at 1010 Beach Drive, sort of a Balboa comes down to Beach Drive, and those stones, I didn't put this in the book, but the stones right there, he brought them down from North Carolina. So just a wonderful personal story and a close-up view of actually what happened during the storm. We've been out there in storms and just in thunderstorms, and it's spooky. And I could not imagine, those gigantic waves and that boat just bouncing along. And that story of survival was just amazing to me. That's why I put that one in the book. All right, let's take a break and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Let's move from the past to the present. Look at some of these pictures. Here we go. Nancy Andrews Tilghman. Look at Nancy Andrews. This Carl Andrews taught his daughter well. This is a nice red snapper. She takes her family out fishing. She and Brad, they do a lot of fishing. Nice red snapper. Now this next picture, check this out. I can't identify, who is this guy right here? Folks, I believe this is the biggest triggerfish I've ever caught. Now listen, there's a story behind this I'm gonna tell you a little bit later. That was a fun trip. This was on Labor Day morning. Now first of all, look how calm it is. Folks, we're 40 miles out southwest of Cape San Blas, 40 miles out, and you could water ski out there. Well, that trigger pull, that was a fun fish to catch. And I'm with Andy Weiss and Guy Terry. In fact, now we were right away, that's Andy's big red snapper. Andy holding it, and there's a guy in the back. Andy said he put on Facebook, he wasn't sure about his lawyer standing behind him like that, but he'd go and put it in the picture. Good trip. We talk about it later. All right, move on now. This not this Saturday, but next Saturday, free kids fishing tournament at North Bay Bait and Tackle. That's right there at Deer Point Dam. So check it out. Take the kids on a little tournament fish right there at the dam. Love this picture here. Okay, this is Michael Harris sent this. This is Shepard Ellisor, that's Shepard in the center, Isaac Fleming, that's him on the right, and Braden Harris on the left. That's some big red snapper on a Labor Day trip. Good picture, and that's a framer right there. That's some big red snapper. Good job. Now, some of y'all ask about the St. Vincent Island hunt. Okay, the sandbar deer hunt is going to be November 30th through December the 2nd. So go ahead, you got to apply for these. It's a quota hunt. You got to apply for them, and it's one sandbar deer, but that's a fun, primitive hunt. Now, that's a sandbar deer. Now, also, they have a white-tailed deer hunt just for archery only, and it's November 16th through the 18th. Okay, and then the other hunt they will have a primitive weapons hunt. Okay, January 25th. That's the one I went on about a couple of years ago, and it's a fun hunt. And it's just if you just look, primitive hunting, getting out there in the woods and all. And here, we've shown this picture before, and the red areas are closed areas, but it's a big island, 11,600 acres, nothing but pure nature. And I love St. Vincent Island, and we used to catch a lot of fish out of there. Okay, so. Oh, I do have one more picture. This is coming out of Kentucky now, one of our local viewers, Century Burkett, opening weekend of bow season in Kentucky. Not bad, is it? Okay, already open up there. There's some big deer up in Kentucky. All right, I do want to mention, I don't have time to get, I'm with the next segment, I'll talk about Labor Day, my experiences on Labor Day fishing and all. But I do want to say now, this is, getting in fall, I mentioned this last week about getting a Labor Day, from Labor Day on into Thanksgiving, that fall season right there. Make sure you plan some kind of outdoor getaway. You can call it anything you want to. Make sure, I'm not talking about just fishing or hunting trip. Do something special with your family, some kind of outdoor activity. And we've talked about all the things you can do, but make sure you pick out some of these weekends, because these weekends in the fall, you know how they are. And it's fun to watch college football, some and all that, but it's also important to get out and get outdoors and enjoy some of the things that's going on here in the Panhandle. So let's take our final break. I'm gonna come back and tell you what some of my Labor Day experiences on my fishing trips. Okay, welcome back. Let's look at our fishing game times today, brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers. We're looking at 1:30 to 3:30 this morning, and this evening after lunch, 1:54 to 3:54. I do want to talk about on Labor Day. We're here, first of all, we plan on doing our fishing trip of going for flounder gigging on this past Friday night. And Jeff Carroll invited me, and he and his brother Chris come down from northern part of Holmes County around Prosperity, Ponce de Leon. That's just a unique area up there. A lot of good folks living up in that area, and a lot of them watch the show. So they drove 2 hours, and we decided on Friday it's going to be too windy. You know how the system was, just too windy and all. So we postponed Friday night to Sunday night. And the only little drawback I had, all week long, I planned also on Labor Day, Monday morning on Labor Day, I was going offshore fishing with Andy and Guy, and so I knew I was going to sort of have a pretty tight window as far as getting some R&R. So anyway, we met Sunday night at St. Joe Marina, and we went out. First of all, he has a rig. I'm going to show you a picture of his floundering rig. Jeff's floundering rig is just amazing. His boat, his light system is really nice and all. We got out there, and we stayed about 1:30 that morning, 1 to 1:30 that morning, and we just didn't have much luck. So I got back, we got back home. I stayed down at the Cape. I got 3 hours sleep at the Cape, and then at the Indian Pass boat ramp, right there, right after daybreak, I meet Andy and Guy, and we launch a boat there at Indian Pass, and we go out. First stop around 36 miles. We end up about 40 miles southwest of Indian Pass, and we're in a good area. And you just saw in that picture, it was just flat calm. And a lot of times, sometimes the morning will start off flat calm, and then it's going to start kicking up around, in the middle of the morning or something. It just never kicked up. It just stayed flat the whole time. And right away, we got in some red snapper, and of course, we got our limit pretty quick of red snapper. We wanted to catch snapper and grouper, and we moved around, got in those trigger fish. And we couldn't hardly get away from them. And then we moved to another hole, by this time, about 11 o'clock, 11:30, trying to get to a grouper hole. And when we got to the grouper hole, one of our engines, we had twin 150s, and he's got a nice boat. One of the engines cut off. We cut off, couldn't get it started back. Well, Andy made a great decision that we better just start easing back because we could only go on one engine at about 7 knots. So after it took us literally about 5 hours to come from 40 miles offshore on one engine. So I got back to the ramp about 5 o'clock, and I got home. Actually, we got back to Panama City about 9 o'clock Labor Day night. So from that 24-hour window from Sunday night, 22 hours, from Sunday night 7 o'clock to Monday at 5 o'clock, for 22 hours, I was fishing about 18 hours, and it was a great time, but we had some bad luck. We had some things that happened that's going to happen on fishing. We talked about it. You're not going to go out every time and everything's going to work perfect. You're going to have mechanical problems sometimes. You're going to have the fish not biting sometimes. You're going to have the waves sometimes. Always something challenging. But anyway, everything ended up fine. But it was just fascinating as far as not having plus, that's another, we talked about this. Always, if you go out, I love having 2 engines. If one of them goes out, you got the other one. So, a lot of folks now getting 3 engines, but that's a lot of gas. But 2 engines, is a ticket going offshore and all. But anyway, we'll try to get some video for you later on. But I want to share that with you now. Let's move into. I did get to go to ball game, the Silver Lining Cloud. I went to Bluntstown ball game last Friday night. Got to see a lot of folks watch the ball game and all. And one of the things I was talking to my nephew, we're talking about, deer season coming up, and they were avid deer hunters up there, a lot of them. And we're talking about the pros and cons of different tree stands and all. And I told him how much I love hunting out of a ground blind, and he's starting to do that himself. So he and his little boy, Dylan, was making. In fact, they were working on a ground blind that week. And it's interesting that you can do those kind of things. And you just stop and think, he taught his 10-year-old the difference between a 2x4 and 2x6, and just working with his son and all, doing something, building something. And I just thought that was just so good because so many people, so many dads, moms, and uncles and all don't do that with kids anymore. Make things. That was one of the things we did outdoor ed. The kids had to make one project with their hand. So anyway, if you can get together and build a birdhouse or a tree stand or a ground blind or something with a kid, is awesome. But I went online. I wanted to show you, because hunting out of ground blinds, they make them already ready-made. I mean, you can look on here now, and I just go run through the prices. Here's a little basic one on the left, and here's one for the second one, $549. Okay, I've seen that blind before. Little kid blind, $129. The advantage of those, they're convenient to set up. Okay, you can set them up real fast and move them and all, and that's not real expensive. And I have one of those myself, but also building some, if you got your own lease and all property, build one. But you look at, here's one on the far right, $250. Okay, and then on and more. These are all different ones. The one in the middle is fascinating. It's called a ghost blind from Cabela's. That's weird right there, but. But most of them you see, here's one on the far left, $650. Well, you see they're real popular now. Or you can build one. Check this out. What do you think you might build this out of? Okay, out of pallets. And that is a good blind, and it's going to be easy to build. And in fact, I really like this. You get a good roof on it. You got a good narrow. That's excellent. It's not going to cost much. Got to set it up on blocks to keep the stuff, the snakes away. Something there, and then of course sometimes just put some little stakes in the ground, and just wrap the camouflage around it. That's a good one there. And then one here up against a tree, like an umbrella or something. Always get up against the tree to break the silhouette. So anyway, ground blinds. I did want to mention that, especially this time of year. A lot of folks are getting ready to get out in the woods and all, and there's all kind of possibilities. Again, that's just a fun thing to do. Get a ground blind, put it together. But I like the portable ones where you can move it around, but also there's a good argument for having a permanent one, looking down a tree line this way or field over here, and just have it sitting there. So just wanted to mention that. We've got to wrap things up. I really enjoyed doing the show today. I appreciate y'all watching the show. I know a lot of y'all getting ready to go to work. Y'all have a great day at work, and always do something good for your fellow man. Enjoy the great outdoors, and may God bless you.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.